If money can't buy happiness, what can? Well, I don't really know the answer to that, but I could definitely use a new computer. Good thing that my birthday's coming up, October 20th, guys. Anyways, welcome to PoyoTWOW 1B. You already know the prompt because I just said it, so let's go into some voting stats. 21 wonderful voters cast 30 scrumptious votes. Thanks to them, every single response got a double-digit number of votes, 10 to 18 to be more precise, with the average being 13.3 repeating. Shoutouts to super voters C Chorus, Duro the Noob, Jamal, TMR840, Mr. McMikey22, Jonah, Mafinity, SpongeBob EDA, and PJ for voting on every single response. You will help make the leaderboards a bit more accurate. However, none of you really used the Supervoter Hangout channel, LamalXD. Why aren't you Supervoters using your privileges? Use them, goddammit. Okay, let's stop stalling for longer than Starling could care less about his son. The winning response got an average percentile of 73.99% from 12 voters, starting our first ever gold medalist off strong with a fat and juicy 96.79% standardized rank. The winning response was bananas. Mistakes instead created joy. Cartoony slip-ups made everyone laugh. One word. Our winner has also been in a sizable amount of mini-trials and has made a few alumni here and there. It's none other than Duro the Noob. Amazing work, Dillo. You are PoyoTWOW's first ever round winner, and that's not an easy title to get. In second place is Winter, who discussed that happiness could be interpreted as a currency even through seemingly stupid means like school lunch. I've never really heard of smiley fries, but I did used to eat potato faces for dinner, so I guess some people can relate in the same way I do. Taking the last podium spot for the day is Monochrome, who made a relatively simple but very relatable pun about free samples at Costco. I've never personally been to Costco. When I first saw it, I actually thought it was a Tesco ripoff. But I guess free samples taste pretty good in voters' eyes. I mean, they are free, so I wouldn't disagree. These three prizes all get to submit a second response for round 2, and only the better one will count. But if you recall the twist, you know that they also have to give a second response to someone who didn't prize, which will make a whopping 6 prizes in total next round. So Ditto, Winter, and Monochrome, listen up. Please tell me who you're giving a response to in your Discord ticket channel within 48 hours of this video's release. Oh, and don't think you can be smart and not respond, because if you don't respond, I'll just pick someone at random. Anywho, Whole Note 1 was our unfortunate prize choker of the round, with a clever response about odometers combining smiles and miles to make a funny pun. This response was actually ranked below 50% for a good chunk of the voting period, and going from that to a prize choke is still pretty darn impressive, so turn that frown upside down. There we go. Okay, let's move on to the rest of the leaderboard now. Here's the first page. As you can see, at the bottom of the page, we actually have one of my 2 dummy responses ranked here. Well, not actually ranked because it's not a contestant, but still, it did pretty darn well. Fox Claren did surprisingly better than I expected for being quite a newbie to TWOWs, and having 4 of the top 5 responses be puns definitely shows that you need to be creative to win in this game rather than just follow the crowd. Jamal went with a short and sweet approach to his response, interpreting happiness as a literal product that you can buy. But right here, instead of happiness in aisle 7, we have C Chorus in rank 7, who probably needs to go straight to the emergency room because that is not a healthy dose. And Adam Cubes 3 again has ranked 8 with a response that was actually originally 9 words. However, I warned them about it in time and they changed it to 10 words. And it's good they did, because as you'll see shortly, responses that go under 10 words generally don't do very well on average. But let's finish the leaderboards first, shall we? Here's the next leaderboard page, and we can see right off the bat that Lodo Bird and Mr. McMikey22 actually tied in average percentile exactly. Of course, the tie is broken by most negative skew. But from one Mikey to another, I honestly don't get what this pun means at all. Fly Games made a response about childhood goals and rewards, triggering both nostalgia and motivation in voters, which they clearly liked, as this response was actually ranked first at one point in the voting. On the complete other end of the spectrum though, we have Mayo the First talking about her self-degrading personality through concerning indie games. I would know that's her thing because she's the only contestant in this PoyoTWOW who I know in real life. And it seems that Cubesoft has remarked on the current state of Teapot right now. That rounds up the top half of the leaderboard. Let's see who placed where in the bottom half. I honestly feel kinda bad for TMR 840 because I told them at one point during the voting period that they were 4th, which was true at the time, but then they got tanked all the way down to 22nd. What a tragedy. H2 Ocean's response that references the age-old wisdom that money doesn't grow on trees was actually the least controversial response of this round, meaning it had the lowest standard deviation and most of the voters agreed where to place it. Coolberry's above average pun, for some reason through the entire first day of the voting period, was in dead last. I honestly don't know why, you voters have terrible taste. Bree's pun swapping money for mummies was also quite a bit overlooked in my opinion. And Talker Tower wrote an okay response about our furry friends, which was unfortunately tanked due to being only 9 words long. Also, Brooks Asayat, I have no idea how you even placed that close to 50% because I had a mental stroke when trying to comprehend what your response was even saying. Now, as you've probably figured, if you haven't seen your name yet, that unfortunately means you're on the last page of results. In my opinion, none of these responses are really that great, but that's okay because failure is just a chance to do better next time. Also, because nobody's eliminated until round 3, that means that you're still open to explore many different types of responses and optimize your game plan to be perfect. And heck, even if you don't count votes for yourself, all of these responses at the bottom were still ranked at least above 67% by at least one person. So there's someone in the world that loves you. Mwah. Also, just take a close look at Maffinity's and Barbarian Gamers' voter rating distributions. My god, those are so two-faced. Now that the leaderboards are all done and dusted for this round, let's go over some miscellaneous statistics. As previously mentioned, H2 Ocean had the least controversial response, whereas Maffinity had the most controversial response. Here is an absolutely flawless histogram that isn't hard to read at all. As you can see, the average was around 50%, as to be expected. However, your score is tanked by over 26% if you use less than 10 words. But if you used puns in your response, then you got an almost 9% boost. So sticking exactly to the word limit and being creative with your wordplay and general responding is definitely the key to succeeding in PoyoTWOW. Now, I would recommend that you look at the top of the leaderboard right now to see what would do well in future rounds and get some inspiration, but to be honest, this prompt was kinda jank with how open it was, and that was meant to explore people's imagination and stuff, but I feel like it was a bit restrictive because the response quality was lower than expected on average. I do apologize to the people on the Discord server who said that this prompt sucked. Hopefully the quality will get better with the next prompt, which I'll reveal after your updated contestant cards have gone by. Okay, now we're leaving round 1 behind and going straight into round 2. So, this is my friend Jonathan, and I'm trying to help him move in, but there's a problem. All of these houses for sale are way too minimalist and have all of the same shape, and it's just sad. Lucky for us, however, that's when the second prompt comes in. It is... a new type of unconventionally shaped home is sweeping the scene. What shape is it and how is it so popular? An example response is on screen if you need it, and you might see that I'm experimenting with a 12-word limit this time, just so that you can fit in an extra idea or two. And remember, even though it's perfectly acceptable to go under the word limit, you are much better off if you just get that perfect match. Here are some important text rules that I'm not going to read out because I have no fun visuals to add. And we're finally done. The responding deadline will be September 18th at 9 PM UTC. The responding period is 6 days because we'll be waiting up to 2 days to determine who's getting extra responses. Thanks once again to Naomi for the cool book poses, even though I used them like once before in this episode, and the second one's about to come in a reused slide. See you all in PoyoTWOW 2.